all the time. Maybe not on a daily basis, but a weekly basis for sure. I think that's, I have chosen to make challenging work because it's meaningful to me, but by making challenging work, there are its own set of challenges and circumstances that come with it, which make it not as marketable as maybe other artists. And I have a hard time making ends meet because of that. But, I do make most of my money writing grants. And I know that I would not get the grants that I am awarded if I wasn't making the challenging work that I am.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay.
Right.
Because I know the friends who make more commercial work are not getting the grants, but then they're selling and they're exhibiting and they're selling with their gallerists and they're selling out of their studio, but they're not getting grants. I'm not represented by anyone. So that's, one lack I see in my career. I have been represented. I'm not currently represented. Yes. Yeah. So no one's going to bat for me. I am constantly going to bat for myself. For 20 years, I'm exhausted. So that's probably also part of I would like to give up because and I'll get to it in a second, but I feel like I support artists so much. I'm sitting here in the artist collective I started, and then I also started an artist mother residency. And it's not to say that curators and other artists haven't supported me. I am so grateful for the ones that have, but I put out so much effort into supporting others. I keep waiting for that same equal effort to come back to me. And it isn't there. Sometimes it is. Sometimes something magical happens and I'm like, oh, great. Now I feel equal balance. There's an equal output and input, but that is not always the case. I feel like I get a lot more output than the resources or opportunities or, whatever it is. And so, it's really challenging to be living in a conservative state, making very challenging work about access to care, female bodies, gun violence, mental health, wellness, children, domestic abuse, all the things, menopause, that's a new project that I'm trying to start, but it's, but I do know that the grants will support that, but it's such a long game. It is not a short game. It is a long game. And I am kind of tired of playing the long game. Although I know that's what I'm in, but it's okay, when is it going to all pay off? And I keep going, and as you know, going after the really, really big grants. I'm okay, I've been at this for 20 years. I'm at this level. When is the long game going to start paying off?
Sarah and I, you and I have I hear you, and it is so well earned that you're exhausted. I don't know many artists who match my own rigor. You are one of those.
Mm-hmm.
And hello, amazing dealer gallery. There's someone out here who's doing a lot of amazing work. So if they're out there and they're listening, we have kind of it's rejection season, text thread. Someone asked me, oh, I've applied for Sharp Foundation. I think every year that I've lived in Nashville, let alone the years that I lived in Boston. So maybe 25 years when it wasn't Sharp Valentis, it was Sharp. And I've gotten waitlisted once, maybe twice, which was amazing. It was 2011 and I had one kid and I was like, thank you, Sharp Valentis. I will never be able to do this right now. But I have a former student who's an artist and a peer and a friend who's like, I've applied 3 times. And I was like, girl,
keep going.
Keep going. And I showed her, I think I sent her a screenshot of my applications portal in like Slide Room or something, and
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
sharp from like 2004 on, and she was like, point taken.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You have such a, not just your own practice is like multiform installation, photographic, image based, lens based, would you say?
Yeah, primarily in performance. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have this social practice arm that emanates, in my view, it emanates from your empathic work you're making in the studio. Your discrete work begets this like empathic thread, like I'm going to open a collective or I'm going to open a mother's residency in Houston. Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know how to maybe speak about it, but I do feel that the collective and residency are extensions of my practice. And I've always been the type of artist that doesn't make in my studio all the time. Like, I'm just not that artist. I mean, Jody, you make all the time in your studio. And I know lots of artists that do that. That's just never been my, working method. Maybe it's for lack of studio access. Like, I don't have a studio presently. Also, I'm primarily a photographer. Photographers typically, I'm typically photographing on a site or in a location. So, I think there's reasons that, I make the way that I make. I'm also very project based. And so it's like, okay, I'm going to work on said project for 6, 9, 12 months or whatever, and then maybe nothing for a year. And I'm at a point, and I say this all the time to students, that because of my living circumstances, single mother, 2 kids, I typically don't make work now unless it's funded. I might start scratching at the surface of an idea or test some ideas out, but I do not typically launch into a project unless it is being funded by a grant. And so it slows me down, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but either it's funded via I get a residency and that's the work I'm making at the residency, or I actually get a grant, or I get a stipend, or some combination of all the above. But that's typically how I'm working now. So a lot of my time is on the admin side, applying for the grants, applying for the fellowships. I mean, yesterday I submitted to the Photo Museum Book Award. The day before that, I submitted to the Caribbean Cultural Institute that has a relationship with the Perez Museum, for a residency with a stipend and a project. So it's like every day it's something along those lines that I'm applying for. But that's where most of my time is spent. It's not spent making, it's spent funding the making. So
yeah. And your work in it is in its material form is very ambitious, like and very heavily considered, meaning it's not a matter of like I walk into my studio and there are some like kind of material machinations I have to farm out, but in general I can like make a collage alone in my studio, whereas your work, you're not necessarily using like reclaimed material. Like often it's like the form of this is like printed silk. So you do, I could see that it's like the funding comes first, and I hope you get like a big chunk so you can just like not think of some of that.
Yeah, and I mean, it does take up a lot of mental energy and space to always be like, okay, where's the money? Where's the money? Where's the money? Where's the money?
Yeah.
Where's the money?
And noted you're in a state in Texas that has, by comparison, and maybe this is because it's conservative, so the arts kind of rally to support its ecosystem, but there's a lot of money and grants to artists in Texas. Like, as compared to Tennessee, there's maybe 3 in Tennessee in the entire state.
Yeah,
and
Texas. I feel so grateful to live in Houston. I mean, compared to any other city in Texas, I think it has the most arts funding. And like, I joke all the time, like the Houston Arts Alliance, I'm like, oh, you're my employer, because I win so many grants. And of course, just like we were talking before, I get turned down all the time. It's just, I keep going. And but primarily they have been like, if you were to look at tax returns, it's like always HAA, you know.
Yeah.
That, you know, that is supporting my career and funding me. But you know, and there are other grants in Texas, and I'm starting to go after some of those, and looking for other, you know, larger opportunities, you know, that come through like a fellowship or a residency. But yeah, I mean, a month ago, I applied for 6 grants in one day. I mean, granted, and they were all for HAA. I applied for 2 for the collective. I applied for 2 for the residency and 2 for myself as an artist. Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, I cannot think right now. You know, and granted, are they difficult applications? No, they're not, but they're still time consuming. And to do them all at the same time, I was like, okay, okay. You know, that's just, it's so much. But I'm also grateful that I can do that, that there is that outlet, there is that resource. You know, when I lived in San Antonio, I applied for grants and I got a few. And I know, like, I think it's Minneapolis has like really great artist grants, and obviously New York. But you know, of the cities that are out there, you know, and Houston is pretty. You know, I don't know how they compare to like Chicago, New York, Minneapolis, but across the U.S., yes, very grateful that I happen to be an artist in this city because they do allocate so much funding to support the arts and arts, or not only artists, but arts organizations, which I think, you know, are both needed.
Yes. Yeah. So do you think, I know your background, like your dad is military, and do you think there would be something, I mean, and you have a background in commercial photography?
Photojournalism.
Photojournalism, that's right. So maybe that is like an answer to what you would be doing, or what you kind of, how you saw you moving
My life.
around. Yeah.
Like if I wasn't doing this. So in high school, I'm the first grandchild on my dad's side, and my grandfather was military, my grandmother, my 2 uncles, my aunts, and my father were all military. And so, of course, as the first grandchild, I considered it, and I would have been a photojournalist, but I didn't want to serve for 4 years. And you know, I happened to be a 5'3" petite woman, and I was like, I don't know if that's really the best environment for me. As much as I appreciate a lot of things about the military, I wasn't sure it was the right fit for me. Although since I was a child, I've been well groomed for boot camp. So from my father, you know, like this is what boot camp is, and grow thicker skin, and you know, just, you know, I have a very sarcastic personality, and I can be a little abrasive and bristly because I was trained that way. But you know, decided in high school that my senior year that I was not going to do that, and I was going to go to college instead. And did photojournalism, worked for newspapers, worked for some internet startups. You know, this is back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And one of the best jobs I've ever had was being a photo editor at Time Magazine. And I helped develop their website, which at the time, you know, early 2001, 2001, time.com didn't exist before. And I was like the first female photo editor for their online. So there was a male photo editor and me. And that was a really exciting time to be there. And I loved it, and still, you know, have such fond memories, I mean, of working there, and the immense responsibility that we all had, both at the magazine and the website. And, you know, I spent 7 years in New York, part of that working at Time, part of that assisting commercial photographers. And I thought about going that direction for a while, because they were everywhere in New York. And that's how I helped supplement my income when I was in graduate school, that and wedding photography. No, that was an awful experience, but it paid the bills. And
wedding photography in New York City, that feels
it was
like a whole other behemoth.
It was insane. It was absolutely insane. I won't even say who I worked for, but some pretty high profile wedding photographers who some were great to work with and some were not. And yeah, I quickly learned that that was not the direction I wanted to go. Although it paid amazing, like more than anything, the money was not worth it for me. The end product was not fulfilling, even though the money was attractive. The end product, like, okay, I'm doing some really nice pictures for your wedding, and like, I didn't get enough from it. Like journalism and photo editing, I got a lot more from. And then I went to graduate school at Parsons, and I was their second MFA class in photo. So they had an MFA in art, but then they had started an MFA in photo, and you know, ended up switching from photojournalism to sort of this hybrid photography, I mean, journalism and art. But, you know, had I not gone to graduate school, I probably would have stayed working at time, maybe till this day. You know, maybe, I mean, Time Inc., the company, has so many, like, People and Esquire, or not Esquire, but like Sports Illustrated was under it, and all the other publications under their umbrella. You know, I might have bounced around and worked for them. When I came back to Texas in 2007, I came for a short stint. I was the photo editor at Texas Monthly, because the photo editor that had been working there, I'd worked with her at Time. She came back to Texas. She was going on maternity leave, and they hired me to come in and fill in for her while she was on maternity leave. And I was like, oh, I could come back to Texas. But then I quickly realized that there are no publications of that standard in Texas except Texas Monthly and maybe Texas Highways, and there's a couple others. But, you know, there's very few photo editing jobs in Texas. I mean, there's some in Alabama, Atlanta, because a lot of the magazines left New York and they went to Alabama and Atlanta because it was more cost effective. I mean, when I was graduating undergrad at UT in '99, I was given a couple of job offers, and one of them was to go work at a newspaper in Sedona. One of them was to work at a internet startup in Houston, City Search. Another one was to go work at Self magazine in San Francisco. And I took the internet startup in Houston because it paid the most, which maybe now I shouldn't have done that. But anyway, I did. But then that launched me into New York because I ended up running the New York photo office for City Search. And that's how I got to New York in 2000. But yeah, there was these options I could see and these different tracks that I could take, like the journalism, the internet, the magazine. And, you know, I still love working as a photo editor. It's just that, and over the last 20 years, obviously there's less and less photo editors. Magazines have gotten smaller and smaller or thinner. You know, they're much more online. A lot of magazines don't even have photo editors anymore, which is really a shame. You know, they have creative directors and, you know, but so I think if I were to be doing anything, it would probably be back in the photo editing role. I really loved overseeing that. I loved all the balls in the air juggling, you know, working with the photographers, working with the creative directors, working with the writers, working with the layout team. You know, it was very collaborative and team oriented. And I really felt good. I don't really think I could have seen myself at Self magazine for a long time. It might have been like great learning, but I still think I would have ended up at like a New York Times, the New Yorker, Time, Newsweek, something like that had more meat to it, and that you know, that had more impact. You know, The Economist or you know, something like that. I don't think I could have been like at a Vogue, or not that there's anything wrong with that, but just for me personally, I needed to be working on stories that mattered to me, and I thought were, you know, socially engaged, which it's, you know, my practice. You know, I sort of came back to this like in grad school. I was focused on my own story, which was still even then socially engaged because I was talking about HPV and cervical cancer and reproductive cancers in women. And this is back before there was a HPV vaccine. And so, you know, making work about access to care and not stigmatization of, this STD that everyone has. Everyone has this STD. I just happen to get the one that caused cervical cancer, which is, fantastic. So I've always, interestingly enough, been making or invested in the same stories, just the package or output is different. So it went from a newspaper to a magazine to now an art project.
Yeah. Very consistent, Sarah. If no one's told you good job today, I'm telling you right now.
Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, really, good job. Cool. That's good. It's so fun to ask this of close friends and learn things I didn't know.
Yeah, I listened to some of the other interviews, and it's like, yes, I would be doing something, but maybe a little more lucrative, but still within the vein of what I'm already doing.
Yeah.
Still visual, lens-based, socially engaged, news, magazine, newspaper, but all these things are, they're all morphing and evolving. And, maybe if I had stuck with that, I would have been like, wow, magazines are not what they used to be. I wish I would have transitioned into something, else, so who's to say?
Yeah, maybe you would have been like, I wish I started a mother's artist residency. I wish I had an art practice.
Yeah.
And maybe perhaps this is what this opens us up to, is that maybe like where we are is the essential kernel of where we should be. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there are times, especially when I'm with my father's family, where I'm like, oh, maybe I should have gone into the military. I would be here, like knowing my personality, knowing how hard I work, knowing how invested I am, how smart I am. I would probably be a commander, something, right? I'd be a badass military female, something.